Welcome, everybody. I'm going to present you our work. All right. Good afternoon. Welcome to the second half of this action-packed day. In this segment, we will continue our talks from the healthcare professional's point of view. My name is Serap Bastepe-Gray. I'm a musician, physician, and an occupational therapist, faculty at the Peabody Conservatory with a joint appointment at the Department of Neurology and a clinical specialist with the JHRN Performing Arts Rehab Program. I have been leading the clinical group of our global initiative in advancing musicians' health, a group of more than 100 experts currently and growing, with my co-chairs, Dr. Shelly-Anne who's here with us from Canada, and Dr. Ana Zhao from Portugal, who's going to be participating via video. And of course, our dedicated steering committee of 17 clinicians and researchers, most of whom are here on stage to present our work today.
It's an honor to be here. I'm Shelly-Anne, and I'm the Director of Research and Scientist at the Artist Health Center University Health Network, which is a conglomerate of 10 academic hospitals as well as health centers in Canada. I'm also an assistant professor at the University of Toronto Faculty of Medicine. So today we're here with 23 experts from around the world to present the work that we've been doing here for the last year with over 100 experts in our Delphi panel. So we're healthcare professionals, we're researchers, we're musicians, we're educators, we're program developers, we're administrators, as well as somatic educators. And we're standing behind the work that we're presenting to you today. So we're joined together to forge paths that will pave the way for providing the effective musician-centered care that we're always aspiring to go for.
We would like to begin our presentation with an introduction from Dr. Eckart Altenmüller, who has been an integral part of our group, serving as our project consultant and scientific reviewer.
Good afternoon to everybody. My name is Eckart Altenmüller. I'm the former director of the Institute of Music Physiology and Musicians Medicine in Hanover, Germany, and I'm really very sorry that I cannot be with you. I would have loved to come to Washington, but as you know, the problems are known. So it's a great honor for me to make a short introductory note for the Delphi project on musicians' clinical care. And this wonderful project represents a timely and unique international effort to advance clinical care for musicians suffering from musculoskeletal and neurological disorders related to musical activity. And I have to say, in the short time, it's a unique project. And we have, for the first time, more than 103 experts from around the world who shared this Delphi process, which I think is great. And furthermore, it's also this inclusive approach where we have the opinions not only of doctors or musicians, medical people, but also, and this is the more important for those who are really doing music pedagogues, musicians, and also the healthcare providers, Alexander teachers, Feldenkrais teachers, yoga teachers, etc., etc. So I'm really very, very happy, and I hope you will have a very fruitful exchange. In the end, we all need and have to strive for a better future for the musicians, for the healthcare for musicians all over the world. And I'm sure that your contribution here in Washington will be crucial for this. So have a nice meeting, and please excuse that I cannot share it with you and that I cannot with you. And I wish you wonderful days in the United States. Goodbye.
Thank you, Eckart. We want to continue with a shout out to the first half of this summit. We have heard from our musicians, music educators, and music leaders their clear call for an urgent reform in tertiary music education that elevates music-related occupational health to become an integral part of education and the very fabric of the culture of music schools. We applaud this, and as healthcare professionals, support this initiative. As reflecting on themes 1 and 2, we see music as an occupation and endorse an understanding of music-specific occupational health concerns through the biopsychosocial framework, total worker health model, and the developmental perspective that was just presented.
But the unique health needs of musicians are not new. In fact, we've been aware of musicians' health issues for over centuries. Take the first written accounts of diseases of workers by Bernardino Ramazzini in 1700, the father of occupational medicine, who first provided insight into the unique health issues of musicians. As we fast forward to the 1980s, more and more healthcare professionals have shown interest in helping musicians manage their unique health conditions and challenges. Unfortunately, musicians still suffer from the high prevalence rates of occupational health conditions despite our efforts. And today, we're one step closer to addressing this issue at this global summit.
Now, one of our challenges is that it takes a significant amount of special knowledge and skills above and beyond the basic discipline-specific competencies to be able to provide clinical care to musicians. Let's hear Dr. Bronwen Ackermann on a summary of our discussions on the special knowledge and skills that should reside in an ideal clinician working with musicians.
Hello, this is Bronwen Ackermann. As an allied health professional working with musicians for many years, I believe you need specialised training in addition to your basic skills to be able to effectively manage injuries occurring in this population. We need to be able to communicate with musicians in a manner that is understood by them and that we understand what they're telling us in relation to their music skills that are affected. We need to recognise the multiple risk factors that can affect neuromusculoskeletal health in musicians. We need to understand what ranges of motion are priorities and are needed for instrumental performance on a range of different instruments. We need to be able to identify where muscle overuse is likely to occur, depending on that instrumental demands or the performer's demands if they're something like a vocalist. We need to be able to analyse the kind of musculoskeletal loads placed on the body during both static and dynamic postures applied during music performance. We need to evaluate central nervous system and peripheral nervous systems related to the kind of symptoms the musician is presenting with. Is it a nerve compression? Is it a central nervous system disorder where we might have incoordination, movement dysfunction, such as extreme cases like focal dystonia? We need to be able to differentiate between the different priorities of the musician, including neurological, musculoskeletal, and psychological symptoms, and be able to work with multidisciplinary teams to try and address problems in the proper priorities. We need to be aware of potential stresses that are occurring in the environment in which they work that may be affecting their physical symptoms. This could be social, environmental, training loads, practice demands, all sorts of repertoire kind of related demands. We need to be able to collaborate between musicians, between the teachers, between each other in order to get the best outcome for the musician. At the end of the day, the performer's goals are very specific to the type of performance field they're working in. We may have certain parameters that we have to effectively operate in to be able to achieve the goal of the musician in recovering from their injury. We need to be able to communicate with the teachers, with the musician themselves, with parents, with other academics within music institutions or administrators working within music departments to try and make sure that the return to play is as successful as possible. And make sure that we have very music-specific and graduated musculoskeletal and neurological rehabilitation programs. The goal of this steering committee has been to look at all the different ideas from healthcare professionals working with musicians to be able to delineate the kind of things we think are priorities for you to learn if you're going to work with musicians.
Thank you, Bronwen, for this summary. And that is a tall order.
So among other challenges, some systemic problems came to light in our discussions. For instance, musicians' healthcare is considered a niche area. But a large percentage of the world's population routinely engage in music making, ranging anywhere from recreational to professional levels of engagement, with up to 94% of prevalence rates of MSK and neurological conditions in musicians across the board. We're currently clearly dealing with a significant health problem, definitely not a niche area.
Well, here's our challenge. It appears that, although it is a well-kept secret, we are serving a large population, and we need specialized knowledge and skills to address musicians' occupational health problems. Yet, our field is not formalized. We do not have a board-certified subspecialty in healthcare for musicians and have only a few programs that are designed to prepare healthcare professionals to provide clinical care for musicians. Despite generous funding of music-based therapeutic approaches, funding of research on the health of the very people who produce this commodity, the musicians themselves, is curiously scarce. Research and educational programming in musicians' healthcare only exists thanks to the efforts of a few dedicated individuals and small group of clinicians and researchers. Well, this needs to change. To serve the musician population, we need funding for research and for developing discipline-specific specialized training programs in all disciplines that encounter musicians regularly in the clinical space, including MSK neuro, mental health, hearing health, and voice health. This is what the musician sector deserves. That's our big challenge and our long-term goal. Now it's a time for an interlude, inviting Dr. Sarah Hoover to the podium.
I have the opportunity to offer an interlude. I am honored to help celebrate the achievements of this exceptional group of clinicians and researchers. You have brought countless musicians back to playing, and your research has helped us all understand the phenomena of musician-specific health issues. The findings you will present momentarily of your collaborative work with musicians, music educators, and music leaders mark a huge step forward for performing arts medicine. Thank you. I want to offer a few thoughts from my perspective at Peabody for the last 10 years. Together with Serap, Andrea Lasner, and others from Johns Hopkins Department of Physical Medicine and Rehabilitation, we have developed resources for our students, workshops, courses, baseline screenings, advisement sessions, and more recently, a research unit and the development of an occupational health agenda under Chris's leadership. While we have made headway, we have encountered barriers which will probably sound familiar to you all. Space constraints, limited funding, insurance coverage gaps, lack of integration with faculty, and most challenging, student reluctance to seek help. I hear their worries. Will I have a career? And if I get injured, what will I do? Who will I be if I can't play? As a team, we try to respond with empathy and a plan that has shifted from resourcing individuals to take care of themselves to building an ecosystem for teaching and learning in which they can thrive. We have a long way to go, but it is clear from my sightline that research and clinical expertise alone will not get to the deeper issue of culture change. It is our collective responsibility to create a culture of trust and safety, of belonging and compassion, a culture in which musicians don't go it alone, but know that we've got their back. So let's translate today's recommendations into action. There is no time to waste. Thank you.